And then did you have any issues with like the topics that we were going over? Was there something
Nope,
that like I shouldn't talk about or
not at all. Just
okay.
yeah, don't talk about my affair with that one celebrity. No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh.
I'm just kidding.
What it do, what it do, what it do, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Wind Down, your favorite chat show hosted by yours truly, Jer Bear, aka Jeremiah Neal, aka the Pop Culture Maven, aka what's my title gonna be? Honorary Brit, because y'all know I love everything, all things British culture. Everybody knows me, knows I love British everything, food, music. I would say ever since like The Parent Trap, Lindsay Lohan, 1997 was my vibe. No, scratch that. Probably Spice Girls was probably like my first introduction. No, scratch that. Seal was my first introduction to British music. But nevertheless, in conjunction with that, y'all seen the title of today's episode, bringing back the British invasion. There's this whole cool trend going on right now, taking things back to 2016. And if anybody knows me and what I was doing in 2016, it's my co-host for today because this person was right beside me, stomping the pavement all over Los Angeles. We was on stages, we was making your favorite hits, making beats, writing songs, and now he is flourishing over in Canada. I want everybody to give it up for my favorite Brit, Mr. Lee Brown. What's going on, Lee? How are you?
I'm Mr. Worldwide now. I've lived in 3 countries. It's crazy.
You wanna shout out?
Well, I'm English. I'm from England, and then moved to Los Angeles to be in your band because of you. And
Not because of
then,
me. You were doing other stuff before you met me over in LA.
well, that's true. That's true. But you were the gateway, and then I moved back to London, lived in the beautiful city of London, and now I'm in Vancouver, which is
Vancouver, which is crazy. We've been talking about I need to get my ass over to Canada, but and I know that Niagara Falls is not on the West Coast because y'all Lee's on the West Coast, I'm on East. But even think about Niagara Falls, that's like 2 hours away from me. And I'm like, it took us longer to like drive to Rouse back in LA than it would to take me to go there. So I need to broaden my horizons and travel a little bit more. So hopefully you can bring that out of me this year in 2026.
it's crazy. It's honestly like when you grow up, you're the same. I'm sure you think the world's so big, and you think that this like it's impossible to go to these places that you see on TV. And I think the more you travel, and you know this just as well as I do, the more you travel, the more attainable everything sounds. It is sometimes just get a case of getting yourself off your ass and moving. But
I feel like you knew I used to be like that all the time. So if we hung out today, you would be so surprised. You'd be like, "Oh, Jared's a bit audacious. Jared doesn't. It's not a worry wart anymore."
I can tell. I see you. I see you
Oh,
moving, and I can see that there's like a. It is just removing that veil over your head and just realizing that the world's like a lot more reachable. Like these places, like you've moved towns and cities, and like you did that big move. I remember you did the huge move from Florida all the way to Los Angeles. It was
by
like
myself.
it's a huge move, but as soon as you do that first step, then you realize that it's just another city with the same bars, same kind of bars, same people, same like everything, and yeah, it's great. I love Vancouver, man. But I miss Los Angeles memories a lot, which I'm
Oh,
sure
well,
we'll dive
we
into.
had some amazing memories. I want to, like, tap into your memories a bit because I'm considering you my little consultant on everything, all things British culture, the British invasion. I'm going to pick your brain. You remember that phrase? I'm
Oh
going to pick your brain a bit on some of these topics. So, for everyone listening, some of the topics that we're going to go over under the umbrella of the British invasion include the British music label system and how a lot of British acts were separate from American acts. So it was really hard for me to be able to identify with some of the acts you grew up with because it was hard for me to even research them. I want to talk about popular acts that were able to break it here in America. I want to know some of your favorite childhood and teen groups because we actually were very similar to that. That's what we bonded over a lot when we first met. The fact that we liked some of the same artists. We also bonded over the freaking X Factor. Used to love this show. Besides the auditions, the acts as well. So I want to talk about that as well. And then I want to talk about who you think is going to be taking the torch from all the amazing acts that you got to grow up with into 2026 in the future. Who's going to be next? So that's the meat and potatoes of the discussion today. But are you ready to dive in? You ready to hop in?
Let's do it.
All right, so Lee, take me back. You're 8 years old. You hanging out in Biddle, waiting for mom to cook dinner. Who are some of the artists that pop up to mind to you that you would listen to on repeat, or you just couldn't wait to hear their song come on the radio?
It's funny because these conversations remind me of the conversations, exactly the conversation we used to have 10 years ago. It's crazy. I always spoke about this when we were in LA, but my childhood was like quite eclectic in terms of like the music I was listening to. My mom Well, I'll start with this example. My mom's favorite artist was Blondie. Blondie was a favorite artist, and she was American. We can dive into this, but she blew up in England, and they really got super popular over there. So I blew up listening to Blondie from my mom. Like that was a big one.
Come
And
on,
then
Karen, keep
Robbie.
going to the
Oh,
book.
I know she loved it. It's funny. I have a poster up on my wall of Blondie. She performed at Whiskey A Go Go in LA, and next to it, I have a poster of me when I performed at Whiskey A Go Go. So,
Yeah, we've been frequenting that venue a couple
oh
of
yeah,
times, you know. So,
this one
but
says
look at that, full
I know.
circle. I'm sure your mom's so super proud to know that.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. So yeah, and then but my favorite bands were like Robbie Williams was a huge influence for me growing up. Like he is an iconic artist, and he's in my personal opinion top three, top five performers in the world. Oasis was just a staple as well. A band called Busted was one of my favorite bands growing up. They're like a pop punk band. I'm sure we'll dive into those later as well. I like a little bit of like music with more rock influence. Ollie Murs was a big one as well. He blew up on X Factor, but I was a little bit older when that happened. I think it was in my mid to late teens. Let's go with those. Those were my key ones. Busted was a huge. McFly. McFly was a great band too.
Yes, yes. Oh, you taking me back. At first, I thought there was going to be like a huge separation, but everyone that you've named, including Blondie, I love me some Debbie Harry, but I love all those acts. I think for the most part, there were a couple of people like not the Sugar Babes, but like the Honeys, or like there's a couple bands that I was able to watch on shows like the Big Reunion and stuff. And I was like, dang, I wish I kind of got to grow up with these people, but I didn't have the opportunity because, like I said, everything was always so separate. So how it worked is the labels, even if they had like a European match, they still wouldn't distribute the music in said country. So for instance, for me, if I wanted to buy an album from Five, I would have to buy it imported, which would be like double, triple the price. So I remember going to like a Barnes and Noble when I was maybe 10 and buying the Invincible album, and it cost me like $35 as opposed to the $12.99 that it should cost for a CD. And I'm like, dang, like this is not fair for these artists. And then if you think about it, nowadays we don't even think about that because we have streaming services. So everyone's just like, oh, we have access to everything. But I can honestly remember when we moved in together, we had different Spotify's and you had access to certain albums. Like I remember Jessie J had released an album in the UK that wasn't released here in the States, and you could listen to it and I couldn't. So this merger of everything is quite a recent vibe. I still love that, you know, there were pop heads like myself in the States that were still loving the McFlys and the Busteds and all those other groups. But in conjunction with, you brought them up, what these people would do, I guess, because they knew that all the acts were separate, they would give them the same songs to record in different regions. So you brought up Busted doing the year 3000, but over here in the States, it was the Jonas Brothers. They
Yeah,
were the ones that were performing that song.
it's funny because like, I feel like in America, if you knew English music back in the day, you were like this, like what you call yourself a pop culture maven. Like you were somebody who knew everything, and like you were a little bit more educated in that topic. Like not many people knew because there was a plethora of music in the United States. You didn't need to know music from anywhere else. You could have a very happy, fulfilled life listening to just American music. Whereas in England, it was a little bit different. It's similar to TV. Like in TV, like we watch Disney Channel. So I grew up in England watching American TV as well as English. But in America, like you didn't have to watch English TV at all.
But I would have if I had it.
Oh, of course. But like, there's always been this like weird sort of versus mentality when it comes to music and TV, which is and it's never like out of like bad heart or anything, but I always notice it's always like Justin Bieber versus One Direction, like X Factor UK versus X Factor US. Right. Like, there's always like this weird sort of competition, which is crazy because in England I never really thought about somebody from America being better or from English music being better in any way. Like I just thought of it all as just music. Whereas like I'm sure in America, you guys thought of English music as its own sort of genre, like its own like, oh, this is the British music.
You stole the words out of my mouth. I want to say the United States did an amazing job at the commodification and the commercialization of the music industry. But when it comes to British music, I feel like it's the heart and like the lyrics, the songwriting, the storytelling. It's so pure from everyone that comes out of there. Like you don't need all the fluff and the gimmicks. Like for instance, Adele is someone that can literally just go stand on stage, belt her song, and then call it a day. But that's all you need. And I feel like there's so many acts. Even Amy Winehouse was someone like that, that the voice alone could carry the record. And I think for all future British artists that are coming out with that, they shouldn't lose that because that's something so special that I feel like, I don't want to say only your region dominates on, but it was superb. And it's something that I will cherish. I love that.
Well, I had this theory when you told me the topic of conversation for this, thought about it. And I compare it to like a party, like showing up to a party. In America, everything's bigger. There's more competition. There's more people. So if I'm showing up to a party in America and I want to be seen, I want to be noticed, I have to wear something a little bit more standoutish. Like I have to be a bit more glamorized, or I have to like be a bit more bodacious or loud in terms of like my presence. Whereas in England, because it's such a smaller country, there's less competition. And therefore, they don't have to try as hard to impress people. It seems a little more effortless. That was a cool little comparison that I came up with in my head. Like, if you want to be noticed showing up in a party full of 100 people and showing up in a party full of 10,000 people,
Yep.
what you would wear, you could be the same amount of talent. Adele could do both, show up in both countries, but in England, she just wouldn't have to prove herself as much because there's less competition. So I feel like in America, your Jason Derulos of the world, your Chris Browns coming out in gold shoes and like, like chains and like,
Yeah, bedazzled best.
bedazzled everything, like giant diamond earrings. And in England, like your artists in England would just show up in like a plaid shirt and jeans and sing their heart out and blow everyone's minds. Like there's something there. I can't quite put my finger on it in a minute. I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it by the end of this podcast, but there's something there.
For sure. I don't know if you knew, Blue recorded the song Too Close, but over here in the States, the song was recorded by their band Next, which is an R&B trio of black guys. So then again, when I was, I love me some Blue, but then I'm getting into their catalog a little bit later because I didn't have access to it. And I'm like, oh, wait, they flipped this song too? And I'm like, this is what Lee was probably listening to. He had no idea that Next, but it was
there's
at
a million.
the same time. So
to me, that song was just a song. Like, I don't even think I would have noticed, but like, that blew up on TikTok, right? Was it TikTok or Vine that blew it? Why are you in lie?
Yeah. Shout out to the writers and the publishing.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. The writers are staying the same, but no, it's crazy because like, I'm sure this happens more so back then than it does now because of the social media. Like you can blow up all over the world now and with just a couple of posts. Exactly. Back then, you had to use your artist. The artist was more of a billboard, right? So the artist was more of like, if the billboard's in the wrong place, it's not going to get seen, which is like a case of like, you could have the best singer like Cheryl Cole or like a Cher Lloyd. Cher Lloyd did pretty well, actually. But like, there's Alexandra Burke. Remember her? Like somebody from X Factor. She was awesome, incredible singer. But like, why would they not give an artist in America that song that they were going to have who already has a platform, already has a face, a voice, a brand? It just makes more sense.
But it's just a shame because she's, again, like you just said, super talented. So it's a shame that talent is only half the battle when it comes to this industry. And that's something I wish we had known prior to hopping up in that that would have been a very different outcome. I want to get into some of my favorite acts, I would say, that were able to cross over the pond and break it here in America, because there were quite a few that I feel back in the oldies and some of our generation. And then I also want to discuss a few that weren't able to, because I'm surprised that, again, based off of their artistry alone, I know, and as a consumer, I know they could have topped the charts on TRL or Radio Top 40 here, but because they didn't have the opportunity, they simply didn't. But starting with the people that did obviously kill it, the Beatles. Do you have a favorite Beatles song?
Oh my gosh. No, I think I have a favorite.
Or a member?
Yeah, I think I have a favorite member in terms of just writing. I think, well, two. I think Paul.
Oh yeah.
I mean, John is also a classic. I don't know. I went to university in Liverpool, and I have like a place in my heart for the Beatles. Like, I just feel like they're one of those, another perfect example. And they blew up without the flashiness in America, I guess. But they were a good example of just feeling like the boys next door. Sometimes they obviously had that big explosion, and they became these massive celebrities. But when you started to see their behind the scenes, I think they had like the behind the scenes what made them feel really personable. They had that One Direction. I want to say One Direction had the Beatles effect, but they had almost the same thing as One Direction, where you felt like you could be in the room with them.
Right. They started social stuff before that was even a thing. Before social media. Yeah, it made you feel like you were their best friend in the 60s. So
I was gonna say probably Hey Jude is my favorite.
Okay.
Hey Jude, just a chat, just that one particular part too.
Oh yeah, the 5-minute outro.
The entire song, but it's just the outro.
You know who else loved a long ass outro? Freddie Mercury. Right. I was watching his Live Aid performance, and one of the songs was like 12 minutes. I'm like, okay, girl, like I know it's a big old thing for AIDS, but
really dragging that song. Come on.
You ever into S Club?
They were kind of thrown into everyone's face in England. Like it was big, huge. This is another example. Like in England, there wasn't as many artists. So like the bands that were big, like the Blues, the S Club 7, all those bands, Steps was another one. They were thrown in front of you. Like they were just like, these are your bands. These are the people you listen to. Go.
I could tell that Steps was definitely one of those bands, because it didn't give me like people was waiting for this type of act, but they also seemed to be booked and busy everywhere. So I was like,
oh my God, it was huge.
What's going on?
Yeah, and everything in England was that era. It was very dancey, very like it's like Europop, very like
y'all love a disco, moment go beat,
and they carry like they still get played in parties and karaoke and all that stuff in England. Like those songs, those ones that are just like Europop, are so so popular still to this day. They still get played.
I love that y'all were able to carve out like a distinct sound. Like I remember, I know that there was that wave because they even had it in the movie Cruella, which is based off of 101 Dalmatians, but the whole like punk scene that happened in the 70s. I also want to shout that out as well because I think that was so influential for a lot of the bands in the United States, but they'll probably never get the credit because like you said, the dishes over here in the States are so big, everybody's going to pay attention to the big glossiness over here. But it was the British folks that kind of like put that sound out into the ethos. So that's kind of crazy. What about Tayo Cruz?
Tayo Cruz, amazing. Hangover is iconic. So that's another example, right? So I was listening to Tayo Cruz that I'd never thought this is an American artist. I just thought it was part of the scope of music that I was listening to in that time. Like there was a ton of like Sean Paul too. That was just, it was so popular. It would be really interesting to see looking at 2010, 2009 charts, like Spotify charts or like charts in England versus charts in America, because charts in America almost guaranteed was just straight up American music. Whereas in the English charts was probably like 50-50 American.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It seems like y'all were super fair at like letting American folks into your space, but it was not reciprocated up until I want to say maybe up until Sam Smith and Adele. Like that's when I start seeing like it being concurrent, them always simultaneously like charting and stuff like that. But that's not fair because y'all got so many other talented acts that again could keep up and were also creating like amazing hits. So
it was funny actually. It's so good. I was sitting down with my my girlfriend and we were watching. She knows I'm obsessed with Robbie Williams, and we were watching a 2000 award show acceptance speech, when he won a Brit Award for like the 7th or 8th time, and they were going through the nominees, and everyone I was like, do you know them? It was like The Verve, and she was like, no, never heard of them. It was Blur. All these bands she'd never heard of, they were winning Brit Awards. They were like, man.
Right.
And like, if you watch the Brit Awards now, it's a little bit more, you'll recognize names a bit more because you've got your huge names like your Ed Sheerans and Caldi and everybody who's massive worldwide now. But back then, it feels like they were kind of gatekept a little bit because of lack of social media or whatever. But there was some songs that I grew up listening to, like every party they were playing. And to think that over the pond, they weren't even known, like nobody even knew them. It's crazy.
I love how you bring up, well, I remember we met his dad, was it Rob's dad when we were in the UK?
Yeah,
but even
he's a local guy.
I was talking to you about how Robbie Williams was just like not a thing. I remember they had the song Millennium on one of the Now CDs, and that's how I got introduced to him. But outside of that, like he was not that big showman like he's presented in the UK. But I think a lot of American moms would have gotten into what he was presenting. Like at the time that he was doing that, there wasn't much mature or adult contemporary type music, I would say, popping off here in the States. I feel like it was phasing out. So he could have easily, like, if he had the right team to help MacGyver everything, it could have worked out. Same thing with the Sugar Babes. I feel, well, first of all, they done had like 15 member rotations, but they were just as good as some of the Destiny's Child bops that I was hearing. You know what I mean? They had really good songs, but they just didn't have the team here to help push them over here. So
it's crazy. And before we move too far on from Robbie, his case is an anomaly to me. And I think it's partly his personality. He's quite a, if you look at some of his interviews, he's very prude, like he's crude, I guess. I don't know, prude or crude. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, prude means like, that he's reserved, and I know he's not because I seen.
Oh no, he's crude. Crude. I think crude is the correct word. He's like top big flirt, like on TV, and he'd go and he'd make out with a girl on stage. And but it's to me, it's crazy that he won the most Brit Awards ever. He's like, I think he's got a record for like the most tickets sold in a single day for a tour is in the Guinness World Records. Like he is the single biggest solo artist in England. If you ask most English people, like he's huge. He's outsold like Elton John. And I think right now, I think that if he gets a #1 record with this record that went out yesterday, he's beat the Beatles for the most #1 albums in the UK.
Okay.
So this guy is huge. Like insanely big. And like I would understand if somebody who's like moderately big doesn't blow up in America. I'm like, oh, they just didn't get it. Right. But how does half the world, Australia, Europe, love him, absolutely adore him, and then just
over here because he came out with a movie? Did he come out with a movie recently?
Yeah, and then there's huge controversy because everyone's like, who is this guy?
I remember seeing it on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, they really gonna market this movie over here? And I mean, granted, that's what you need because I remember when the Saturdays. They got signed to Scooter Braun, and they had a TV show here in 2013 to help break them over to the States. So I'm like, well, if that's what it takes, the reality TV shows, the movies, etc., to help change that perspective, then so be it. But again, he's been in the industry for damn 35, 40 years. Like Westlife. Like they've been in the groove so long that do you think they want to sit there and restart from zero when, like you said, they've been on the top of the world for 30 years?
And he doesn't. Like, I think that's what he said. I was actually lucky enough to, I don't know if I told you this, but I was lucky enough during the pandemic, he reached out to me on Instagram because we're from the same hometown. And his best friend was actually somebody who signed my visa to move to America in the first place. and he reached out to me on Instagram, and like we had a chat, and he was basically mentioning that like he decided that America was going to be his safe place, right? So like America is the only place in the world that he can walk around town with his kids,
Ain't nobody
actually
bothering.
have a normal day, and he's made enough money to last him generations and generations. He doesn't have to worry about money. So
Right.
now he's living life in Beverly Hills. I'm sure he's got boats and cars and yachts and whatever. And he's living this beautiful life, and he can live a regular life, go to the grocery store, do all this stuff. His ego is not as big now, so it's not going to hurt him as much that he's not
Mm.
getting recognized over there. And the second he steps foot in England, he couldn't walk 3 meters out the door. So it's super
You
interesting.
gotta have balance.
The Saturdays is a good example too. The Saturdays and the Wanted. Did they sign Scooter Braun too? The Saturdays?
Yeah, Saturdays and The Wanted. And that was the same thing. So I found out about The Wanted in, I want to say 2009, and they were not getting any of their music distributed here. So I couldn't even listen to Glad You Came. None of the hits that were on y'all's radio in real time, I had no access to. They finally, when they signed with Scooter, they got signed to Mercury Records, which was distributed here in the States. And they made like a EP compilation of all their most top performing songs from the UK to release here in the States. But I was like, that's not fair because y'all already released damn 2 to 3 albums already in the UK, and then you want to give me an EP? Girl, give me all the songs. So again, talk about everything being so recent. A lot of these new pop heads or the people that are into music don't know how easy they have it because we had to put in some work.
That was an era when like a cosign was important, right? So like if you had, I don't know if it's still a thing, obviously. Like if you got Simon Cowell or Scooter Braun behind you, you're usually in a pretty good place. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not as guaranteed anymore.
Well, yeah, well,
Like
he tried. Who he had? Not Rizzle Kicks. Rixton. You remember when Scooter had
yeah,
Rixton?
it's a perfect example of like back then, like the Wanted had Scooter Braun, and it was like, how far can a cosign get you? Like, obviously, it didn't work that well, but Scooter Braun's huge. He
Right.
launched all these artists, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna have this person behind him attempt to launch him, and I guess he was just a little bit too late.
I feel like with him though, he's smart because that's what a lot of managers do. They poach when you're already sizzling and popping. Glad You Came had already been wavy for a good 6 to 9 months before he even like entered into their camp. And he saw that song like be the hit of 2011. So of course he wanted to do it. And then he recommended them all them raggedy songs from their third album, Walks Like Rihanna, and like all these songs that just didn't really make sense to the brand. And then the group broke up after the third album. So it just goes to show you maybe there should have been some differences in like management between British and American people because maybe Scooter didn't have the heart to understand what they were even trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe it's that, especially now, like we've been in a band and we've sort of been out of a band too. Like one thing that gets me as well, and it saddens me, and I kind of find myself following it a lot more now, is not so much the rise of the bands, but like fall of the bands. Like now I'm looking at like now it's like 10 years after this, or 5 to 10 years after this. I'm looking at like these bands like Rixton, and I'm just like, damn, these guys have like probably got regular jobs now. They're just like doing their own thing. They went from being signed by Scooter Braun on top of the world,
Jingle
and now they're
balls.
like nothing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
crazy
It saddens me too because I know for us it was on a lot of smaller scale. I don't know how much your listeners know about like the band that we were in, but we were.
Bit on my introduction episode, I talked about how I was, doing my thing, doing my musician shit in LA. So they know a little bit about Phase 5, but
Well, exactly. If you don't know, we were in a band called Phase 5, and we always say we were a small band, but like we had a small but mighty fan base, and it felt like moments. There was moments of like absolute gold where we just felt like we were making it in a sense, and like we were having these opportunities where we were going to these award shows and we were shooting music videos, and we had these amazing
touring
choreographers
in the
with,
UK.
and, yeah, touring the UK. Like we did some amazing things, which at the time you obviously take for granted, but then you look back, and especially when the band's gone, like I found myself reminiscing a lot, and it's just sort of like looking back and being like, you don't realize how amazing life was back then. And I'm sure like going back to like the Rixtons of the world and the Wanteds of the world, I'm sure there's moments when they look back and they're like, holy crap, like I had everything in the palm of my hands and it's gone. It's a big knock to the ego.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, although, like you said, we reminisce on those hard times, hopefully what I got from it all is like once you process it, you still have gratitude for it at the end of the day.
Oh, my, yeah. I mean,
so
I
cool
love
to be able to like touch base with y'all and be like, we still did that shit, regardless of if the world didn't understand it at the time, because that's how I see it. Every single K-pop group that you see now, we was already doing that shit 10 years ago. So it's
oh my God, we were.
set the tone for what today is embracing, and that just makes me happy to know that we are just a little ahead of our time.
I look at it with the most like amazing. I had the best time of my life, and it was so much fun. And it's always onwards and upwards, and you're always looking back. But it's so nice to look back on these moments and just be like, oh my God, these are stories to tell the grandkids, and it's just really cool.
You brought me my heart, Lee.
I mean, you know this too.
All right, Lee. So if there's one thing that we bonded over it in our friendship. It was our love for the show, The X Factor. Outside of the hilarious auditions, it also brought some of like our favorite acts that I know that we listen to without a doubt. I'm gonna run through a list of some of my favorite acts that I think we both love together, and then you can tell me some of your favorite songs or just some of the memories that you have from them. So first up, obviously, One Direction. We got Little Mix, JLS, Ollie Murs, Alexandra Burke, Leona Lewis, Cher Lloyd, Fleur East. There's so many of them. James Arthur. Who else? Who's that old lady? I know your ass ain't listening to no Susan Boyle, but she was a moment. You know what I mean? The X Factor was so big. What are your like best memories of watching the show or an artist from the show having a concert?
You'll probably agree with me on this. Like the journey of watching somebody is the one of the best parts. Like I think that's why X Factor is so good. Most people look at it as like obviously the comedy is funny as hell, but like the watching somebody's journey from like that first audition all the way through to like them like performing on the live stage and then releasing a single is like really interesting to me. It's like I think that's maybe just the artist or the musician in me like speaking there, but that's my favorite part.
You
But
will
then
literally like memorize people auditions. Like you remember the guy, Hallelujah.
yeah.
Or our girls, Rouge Kiss. We used to watch the auditions like over and over again. Like there was just something magical about how they were able to present exactly what you said, everybody's dreams into like the perfect package that you wanted to root for them. Like they had to win the show or they had to place or they had to like just do something special. Did you ever go to any of the X Factor tours?
No, I didn't. I actually never went to much. I didn't go to much live music to be honest. When I was,
No.
I
You
was
got to
growing
see
up.
the 1D boys though.
I did.
Yes.
Ellen.
Yeah, yeah.
This is why Gogglebox was so good because everybody loves to be the judge of people, right?
Yep.
So the X Factor was good because you could put yourself in the shoes of the judges and you could like sort of form your own opinions and you became this fifth judge. Essentially, you were the fifth judge on X Factor and you were there screaming at the TV. You're like, this is ridiculous. And I thought that was amazing too. I always used to love the part where they brought out their favorite artist. So
Oh
like,
yeah.
they'd be singing and then there's one round where, like Ollie Murs brought out Robbie Williams. And he came and sang Angels with him, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Alexandra bought out Beyonce.
Did?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She performed Listen with Beyonce. And that was a big thing because at the time, Simon Cowell said something about like Beyonce is not a good singer or something like that. So she definitely showed up Simon, but for the most part, like, could you imagine you in a competition show and then your partner is Beyonce just showing up one day? Like, that's insane.
Can we, whilst we're on the topic of Beyonce, and this is a very fitting note actually. Oasis won Beyonce in terms of tickets sold in 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, so Oasis's tour beat Beyonce's tour, which is crazy. But
Everybody from that band reunited for their tour?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm interested
I went.
to see because
It was the best concert I've ever been to in my life.
oh, you went. Okay, tell us what was the highlight?
Everything. Like there's a song called Little by Little by Oasis, which is incredible. There was just Oasis, like I said, it's a childhood thing, and that's something that I really only need to do once in my life. Like I don't think I'm ever. They're only going to get older, and I'm sad that I didn't get to see them when they were younger and more in their prime. But having them coming back on a reunion tour and just listening to like the classics like Live Forever and Wonderwall, and there's some of my favorite songs like Whatever and Little by Little and Don't Look Back in Anger and Rock and Roll Star and all these songs. And me and my friend, we were just screaming our hearts out. I was in tears. I watched it in Toronto, so I was in Canada, and it was the only Canadian show. So the show was full of every English, Irish person, every British, European person in Toronto, in Canada came to this show. So it was huge. It was packed. It was absolutely incredible. That was like a highlight of my life. It was an amazing moment.
I love that.
But just that's a good example of like, they have this aesthetic, which is like effortless aesthetic, right? Which is like, it's very pop punk. It's very Green Day. It's very back to those punk artists where they could show up in jeans and a t-shirt, which I love that energy. And
It's so anti-commercial.
I love that stuff. I love just wearing simple stuff, like I say, as you remember back in the band. But they're just showing up in like a bucket hat and like a coat and jeans, and then Beyonce comes in and there's
production,
200 dancers like flashing lights, and it's just like Oasis didn't need that. They just had the band and left the entire place in tears. It was just. I mean, Beyonce. I'm not taking anything away from Beyonce. She's absolutely incredible.
No, it just reinforces that exactly what we started out the podcast with is that America knows how to give you the show, the glitz, the glam, but a UK artist is just going to give you As I Am, the heart, take it or leave it. And obviously, y'all were taking it because everybody was at the damn show. That's amazing. It reminds me of Spice Girls.
Oh yeah, it does exactly.
I saw them at Wembley in 2019, and the same thing. I was crying. Everybody's screaming all the songs top of your lungs. You're just like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. That's what.
What's your favorite Spice Girls song?
Okay, it's hard. What I'm listening to the most recently is Holler, which was their second release on their third album after Jerry left the group. I like it because it was produced by Darkchild, and at the time he was doing all of Destiny's Child's records, all of Brandy's records, so it has more of like an R&B feel. And I definitely feel like the girls are actually showcasing their vocal ability as opposed to being like bubblegum pop artists. And so that was cool. They kind of like grew up, and I was like, oh, okay, they matured a little bit, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
But overall, I feel like even with them or even with Oasis, like Spice Girls and Oasis are completely different brands or like how they approach the industry. But overall, like the curation is still super British. Like they were still all super proud to like represent where they're from. And I just, again, I hope that future acts or even American acts can be that proud of like not
Yeah.
necessarily their heritage, but what the entity was able to cultivate. Because within the 90s and the 2000s, like y'all had some heavy hitters, even outside of X Factor, that were just creating just like magical moments for British music and British pop culture that even with television, like you brought up Skins and like all
Yep.
these shows that transition over then to the States a little later, like y'all really set the tone on a lot of this shit.
Okay, here's a good question. So we've established that if you were to class English music as a stereotype, especially back in the day, English music's like a Euro pop. Let's just say that is the epitome of English
With a
music.
hint of soul, with a hint
With
of
a
like
hint of
blue
soul.
eyed soul.
What would you say America's music is?
Woo.
Is it country?
It
'Cause I
depends
feel
because
like
America's so
that's
hard.
what it's
I would say
marketed.
like, yeah, middle America is definitely giving middle and South America, not South America literally though, but the South of North America is definitely giving country. But it's hard because like regionally, even with this whole like trap R&B and trap rap scene, like Atlanta and the South was like really took that over with like Future and everyone starting in 2011 until up until now. Think about that. We used to have Euro pop, everything, the BPM, so and
Yep.
up everything on the radio like slowed down in the mid 2010s, and it was because of that wave of that type of like the Migos, everything kind of slowed down. So it might be that trap hip hop, maybe that might be the current sound of America, but mixed with Morgan Wallen, he be stealing them sounds anyway, so you
No,
might
I know.
know that.
It's yeah.
They be having hip hop music in the country, so I'm like,
Oh, I
hey.
know, and there's so much crossover now as well. Like I was never a huge fan of country music, but it's been sort of force fed to me a little bit, and I'm starting to like love it
Okay.
in terms of just
Who's
like
some of your favorite country music? And do you see country having a vibe in the UK? Do you think people will adopt to that sound
I
eventually?
think people could learn to like it, but it's not. And this is why it took me a while to warm up to it. Right. So country to me is it's a feeling. And it's
Mm,
a feeling of the it's the like feeling of middle America, like in the middle of like that hillbilly feel. Like you listen to it and you're taken to a place, right? And you're taken to a place and you could almost smell the smells, you can see the
mm,
scenery, and that's where you sit. You're sitting on a hay bale in the middle of that's what or like you're at a bar with those swing shut doors, and you know when someone's like sliding a whiskey over to you. That's what you feel when you're in America. And only living in America can I actually put myself there. Whereas like somebody who's raised in Manchester or raised in London, they can't put themselves in those situations. It's just like it's like a movie to them. Like they've probably seen it in like John Wayne movies, but they've never seen it in real life. So I feel like it's hard to translate that kind of music. It's like grime in England or like chavvy music we call it, like
not chavvy music.
yeah, like chavvy, like acid grime, like where Skepta came from, like that
Yep,
kind of.
yep, yep.
Like it's hard in America to pick that up because like it was such a prolific part in England where everyone was in the clubs and they were everyone just rapping it like on the streets and like there was just a culture like you remember it. There was a song called H2O by Platinum.
Okay.
And it's like this. You can listen to it after this podcast, but and if you're listening at home, it's H2O by Platinum. That's the kind of music that I was raised listening to, and it would never, ever, ever blow up in America because it was so different, and we associate it with a time in England, and like it's super interesting.
What's the
Uh,
name of that group that Talisa was in?
End ups.
And yeah, because we met the guy at Soccer Six. You remember? And you were so excited. I forget his name, but that was also a moment. Oh, those are glory days.
End ups. Lisa, oh my God, she was an expert at it too.
It's Lisa, right? Let's talk about another throwback. Overall, I feel like British music is superb. They just have to keep up the curation because they already have like so many people that have like laid the pathwork and the foundation of impeccable work. But when we're moving on, looking into the future of 2026 and to the 2030s, are there any British acts that you've been paying attention to that you feel can carry that torch, or you have your eyes on them and they've just been sizzling and being hot?
They are, but like I don't find myself like listening to them as much as
That's
well. Like
good.
I also, it's also like for me, it's kind of hard, especially living in such a neutral country at the minute. It's hard to know who's
Solid.
actually English. Like it's so funny because like sometimes you're like, who the hell is this?
Right.
So
That's how I
like
felt about Central C. I thought he was black and not from the UK. And then I found out he was a British rapper that was not black. I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is
yeah.
right. But
Well, SD Kid's supposed to be he's one of those kids. He's like a rapper that's everyone thought was Timothy Chalamet,
oh
and
yeah. And then Timothy did the like guest
he's
appearance
not.
on the music video or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's so obvious marketing. Like it's just almost comical. Like I'm sure there is some level of authenticity to it, but it's so crazy. Like people see it from an outside perspective, from outside of the machine, let's call it.
For sure.
And they just think that it's, oh my God, Timothy Chalamet might be this person, and they're doing it, and it's crazy that they're in the same video and they just met and it's random. But all this stuff is so, especially when there's a major label behind you, this stuff is so carefully done.
Talk about major label. Well, shout out to Ray. She was going to be one of the artists that I feel like can kind of carry the torch because she's already been through the worst of the worst with her labels. And I love her because she's just like Chapel Rowan. She's been very vocal about how she's gotten the worst of everything in her experience. And to see the trajectory change into something positive, I think it's great. But I think her spirit is a little bit more positive than Chapel, which is why I'm like rooting for her because not only like does she want this, she has the crux of everything that you need. Her songwriting is impeccable. She's writing for other artists. Her own songs are great. The sound is that throwback vibe that everybody loves because that's why everybody loved Adele. They're bringing that sultry songstress vibe back. And I'm like, this could be a moment for the next couple of years that I'm into. Have you heard of No Guidance?
No, who's that?
Okay, so No Guidance is a boy band from the UK. They do R&B. They have a couple of songs, and Victoria Monet actually wrote one of their songs called "Is It a Crime?" Is it a crime?
Is it a crime?
Yeah,
That's their biggest one I'm looking at. I've never heard of these before.
yeah, you should watch them. I think you'll like them. They're more like R&B, like I said, but they do tight harmonies. They're very crisp. They don't really dance like they do a little two-step, but very crisp with that. Did you see Blue came back? They charted #2 this week.
You know, I've been laughing. This is so funny. Like all these boy bands that are like are coming back. Some of them can do it. Some of them. Some of them.
98 degrees. They need to hang it up. No shit.
I mean, it's just, and also like, and I hate it because I hate like, I mean, Shade's a little bit fun, but I would hate to be on the receiving side of things.
Right.
But oh my God, like the comment sections crack me up. Like, seeing that's like, it's like 98 degrees. Someone was like, it's like 47 degrees. Like,
you need to have people in your camp that will be realistic with you. They don't have nobody in their team telling y'all, hey, maybe you should get another choreographer or you should do some staging different, whatever. They got people around them saying, oh, this is great, this is awesome, or whatever, and then they get their asses on stage and embarrassing themselves. So yeah, I agree. But
Blue is another one where you can edit that out.
Come on, Blue.
Blue or two, and that is why I became a songwriter.
Yeah, they're Pound Productions.
I can rhyme anything, but Blue's a good example because Blue, they're not old, as old as 90 degrees. And they also, I feel like they've all, for the most part, kept themselves in pretty good shape. Some of them have been in the public eye, and they've only ever been away for like 5 years at a time, maximum, I would say. I love Blue. Blue were great. And they never tried too hard either, which I liked.
Five just had a reunion too. They just did Jingle Bell Ball. They had like
Five
that.
Did?
Yeah, they're killing it. You got to go watch it. Talk about choreography, fashion on point. Shout out to Abs. I'm like, how are you gonna be in your 50s looking like more fly than all the streetwear guys that I see walking down the streets in New York? So I don't know. I think that's cool when you don't have to be like a grandpa just because of your age. Like you can still be young at heart. It was all five members that because for a while we watched it on the big reunion that only a couple, I think 3 came back and we were laughing because how you gonna be 5 with 3 members? Oh yeah, they have all 5.
Didn't Fifth Harmony do that? Didn't Fifth Harmony just come out on Jonas Brothers tour with 4?
Yeah, with only 4. But I mean, we already know. As much as the Fifth Harmony videos we watch, we already know their tea.
Were you more of a like Boyzone Westlife or Blue and Five? Like, did you like Boyzone and Westlife?
Blue and Five. Like, I knew about Westlife, but they gave me like my aunties would have liked them. I hate the word adult contemporary, but their sound was just like a little bit more mature and ballady. Whereas Five was coming out the gate with the choreography and like the swaggery outfits and stuff. I was like, oh, I want to watch that, or I want to be like that. So I wish I could have gotten into like some of the groups you named. And what was that guy that we met at Playlist Live that was a part of some group that you used to listen to?
Oh, Blair. Yeah, he was part of East 17. Yeah, they had a really popular Christmas song.
Okay. But even with them, it was like they probably came out around the same time as New Kids on the Block. So it's just crazy how like timing can affect your interest in someone, but nevertheless, like it sucks because they probably had a swagger that could have popped off here in the United States had they been given a chance too. Anybody could have. It's just
And
business.
it's a perfect example of like sometimes a luck of the draw, right? So like, oh, there's so many boy bands. Easily, NSYNC's man, like, NSYNC's a bad example, but like
Yeah,
Five's manager could have been Blue. You know what I mean? Or like they could have switched managers, and their career paths could have been completely different. Like it just so happens to be in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, and that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yep, the craziest business.
But do you think we're gonna get a One Direction reunion?
Well,
are we getting it? Or what?
It's kind of hard because I don't know how they feel without Liam. R.I.P. R.I.P. It would be cool. I would love to hear their voices again together. I feel like I love when Zayn and Harry sing together. Out of all the members, I listen to Niall the most. Like his solo material.
Most improved.
Come on, talk about a career. Yeah. Think about it. Albums, having a personality to host a voice. Think about, evolution. I love that. It would be a cool way to let us millennials have our one little moment before it officially goes into Gen Z and baby alpha territory. And now we don't have nothing for ourselves because we're officially the old heads. So yeah. In closing, give everybody just like a brief update. We still releasing music? Are we still gigging? Where can people find you on social media? What's up next for Lee Brown in 2026?
Well, let's start with the easy answer, which is my Instagram is Isn't He Lovely? ISNTHELUVLEE. It's a Stevie Wonder song. Isn't he lovely?
You got to add that. They got to add some type of little audio or something on your bio so then they can play.
It's funny. Like, everyone thinks it isn't lovely.
Well, listen, because Lizzo has the same thing. Lizzo's Instagram handle is Lizzo Be Eating, and people think it's Lizzo Beating. The longest time I was like, no, it's Lizzo Be Eating, so y'all can't call her fat because she already know that's her Instagram name. She likes to eat.
That's funny.
And what's going on with music? What's going on with all things Lee?
So at the minute, I am producing festivals in Vancouver. So I'm actually creating festivals and also producing them in Vancouver. Music festivals, it's a lot of fun. We got one called Rose Disco at the minute, which we have now in Vancouver, Kelowna, Toronto, Arizona, going to Dallas, San Diego. Like it's
crazy.
A
worldwide. You not playing?
No, I know. But also, I am revisiting music. I've been like a year off, year and a half off, and I have a plethora of songs that I have been working back on. So that's coming. So that's something that is in the pipeline. I'm still very much passionate about music, and I needed a bit of time to settle into a new city, a new country, and I've been working with some cool writers and producers out here as well, which is exciting. And I'm also in the works of starting a podcast myself, which is very exciting. We've got exciting things in the works, and 2026 is going to be a year full of lots of fun content from me, hopefully.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that you're still active in the arts. That's something you should never lose because you're bloody talented, as y'all would say, bloody. But just never lose that heart. You just got to put it out there. And I know it's hard nowadays when everybody's on social media and everybody's doing everything, but never forget like who you are because you're a bomb Brit.
No, I know. And Jed, just so you know, you're obviously the perfect example of like, I used to have a saying on my wall and it said, if you don't quit, you'll never fail. And I think it's like such a testament. You're such a testament of that. Like you show that you love it so much and you work so hard, and it's something that I aspire to do. And your work ethic is truly inspirational and it's like admirable. And even knowing you for 10, 12, up to 15 years now, I don't even know how long it's been, but it's honestly admirable. And just seeing how hard you work and how much how much you love to do what you do and how good at you are what you do. It's amazing to look at. And it's amazing to watch from afar. And I'm very much still watching everything we do. It's obviously we've got our own lives and we're moving forwards and doing things, but you're still a brother and you're still part of my life, and it's amazing. So it's great to reconnect.
I didn't pay him to say that, y'all. I promise. Oh, I appreciate that more than you'll ever know. Yeah, I'm gonna end it there because I want to get all emotional. But yeah, this has been amazing. Shout out to all my favorite British acts. If we didn't name people, maybe we'll do a part 2, y'all. Maybe we'll even go into, like we said, television and movies, because you was naming some stuff that I wasn't even thinking about. Like, dang, like y'all's impact again is so crazy. But I would love to have you back on the weekly rundown if you would love to be a guest in the future.
I would love that.
Well, I appreciate y'all. Everyone that's listening in, make sure to subscribe, share, comment. Leave me a comment on Spotify now that we can leave these comments. I cannot wait for more content to drop this year. With that being said, this has been the amazing
Lee Brown.
There we go.
Isn't he lovely?
Isn't he lovely? And Jer Barrett signing out on the weekly rundown. I can't wait to talk to y'all next week.
Bye.
Holla! See y'all next week.